Welcome back to the Pitch to Purchase podcast. I am your host, Lisa Raebel. Today, I'm very excited to be talking about sales. But stop before you turn this off. It's not just about the task of selling. It's about the psychology behind what selling truly is. And today, I get to interview my friend Dave Molenda, who is a sales consultant. And he and I have worked together. I've been on his podcast. I've actually spoke at his events. And he's on my podcast today because he sees it from not only the salesperson's perspective or the person responsible for sales, but also from the leadership perspective. And it's a great conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. But first, I want to talk about sales and selling. Now, there's a couple rebel mindset sayings that I like to say to my customers. The first one is marketing is storytelling. And selling is simply telling that story to other people. That's it. But here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand what their story is. And I don't mean like, once upon a time, there was little princess. No. There's not that kind of storytelling. The story that I want you to tell is, what is the outcome people are going to have from working with you or from buying your products? How are they going to feel afterwards? They feel bad before, they feel good after, those kinds of things. Those are the stories I want you to tell. But the storytelling part, that's a different episode. Today, I specifically want to talk about what sales actually is in the real world. We think it's like the used car salesman trying to get the most money for the least amount of products kind of a thing. But it goes way beyond that. And I'm going to start with my WTF moment. Now, this goes back quite a few years when I was back in corporate sales. And this is a good WTF. So what happened was I had a lead on two different prospects in the territory that I was working on. One was a large local furniture company, and the other one was a dairy, like a brand name, everyday household dairy. And both of those opportunities, I took a different approach versus just, hey, buy from us. So what I was selling at that time was corporate insurance, property casualty. So it was like liability, fleet, product liability, errors and omissions, all the things that have to do with business. Workers' compensation was a big one. Now, what happened was when I got these two leads for these two large companies, what was happening is I actually approached it from a much different perspective versus here's my price. I approached it from, don't tell me your price. Cross it out, black it out. I don't want to see it. And this is back when they actually gave me paper copies of everything. So I took their policy and I took it to our underwriter, and she did an analysis on it and found a lot of gaps, both for the dairy and for the furniture company. And I didn't approach it from here's the pricing and here's how you fill all the gaps. So that would be giving the answers to the test. Instead, what I did is I said, let's use a round number. You have 10 different things where there's a major gap in your policy. Here are the top 3. And then what I said was, now I will be competitive with the pricing. I understand that, but I don't want you giving this information to anybody else as far as what the gaps were, because that was an unfair advantage. The other people didn't catch the gaps, but my underwriter did. My team did. And I approached it from that perspective. Now, I got both sales in 1 year. Both very large sales. So that was actually at like 440% of my quota. But I didn't sell. I found things that other people didn't see. Technically, my underwriter did. But I knew by looking at their policies that there was a whole bunch of things that we could be doing that they weren't doing. And so it wasn't that I was selling to these people, but I was solving a problem of not having enough coverage if something bad happened. And I didn't sell fear. I don't believe in selling fear. But I pointed out areas that they would have major issues if something happened. And it caused fear in the client, but that wasn't my intent. My intent was to bring awareness to the problem. And that's what I do. And that's how I've always actually sold. I see things and I hear things that the customer doesn't see or hear from their team. Because remember the whole saying about the forest and the trees? You can't see the forest because you're in the middle of the trees. And that's the situation. That's what I sell. I sell clarity of the situation and then bring them solutions to solve their problems. I don't sell on price. I don't sell on fear. I don't do all of those things like that, the used car salesman kind of scenario is always be closing and the hard sale kind of a concept. I don't believe in that at all. I believe in education, awareness, exploring, solving problems, filling the gaps. That's how you sell. And it's not about closing the sale. It's about building up the confidence that they have in you so they just automatically sign in the bottom line. Let me just say this. I want to be perfectly clear about this. If you have to convince somebody to buy from you, stop it. They don't need what you have, or you're not the right solution for them. I have been sold to so many times in my life, if it's anything from, I don't know, a washing machine to a car. I hate being sold to, but I love to buy. And that's another old saying. People hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. So find out what's motivating them to buy. Why are they there? What do they need that product? And that's when it comes to sales. That's what sales is really, really about. And before that, you need to have the right marketing, because the right marketing makes sales a whole lot easier. Sorry, but that's a different episode as well. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about 3 very specific things. The first one is that sales is the eyes and ears of the marketplace. And if you're in a role, whether you're the president of an organization, you actually have the title salesperson, or you're a project manager that's out there looking for more business, whatever your role is, even if you're an internal salesperson dialing for dollars and trying to get sales that way, it's about being in that role. You are the eyes and ears of the market. And so what you need to do is you need to communicate what you're hearing out there with the other departments in your company, all of them. Not just marketing, not just the president, but operations and finance and shipping and manufacturing. You are the eyes and the ears of the organization. So the first thing I want to say is that the most important role you have as a salesperson when it comes to your team is communicating what you're hearing. Because what you might be hearing out there is that we've got great products, but they buy from somebody else because this other company has everything that they need. Or maybe it's a service that you're not providing that you could provide, but you just haven't built it yet. So build it. Operations needs to hear these things. And finance needs to hear if there's what's happening out there and making sure the profit margins are proper. So having that internal communication, that's role number 1. Aside from working with your customers, your number 1 role as a salesperson is to have internal communications with your team. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to realize that selling isn't about selling. It's about relationships. And you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but I'm going to say it 1,001. If people don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. Period. End of sentence. I'm working with a client right now who's doing a campaign, a retail campaign on LinkedIn. And the first one was, hey, let's link in. But the second one was about selling. And I'm not sure about you, but that's a huge turnoff. So we recreated the cadence to be about, hey, let's connect. Hey, I'd like to hear your thoughts about this industry that I'm selling in. And then the other one was like, hey, thanks for sharing if they respond. And would you like to learn more if you're having a problem? It's a different cadence. It's like you have to show you care before you can sell a product. So number 2 is about making sure that you build a relationship, that your customers know you care about them before you try to sell to them. And the third thing I want to talk about is your quota. Because you may have, let's say, $100,000 quota. I like round numbers. Not a big fan of math. And you sold $100,000, but your profit margins were crap. You did a disservice to your company. You did. You might have met your quota, but that has nothing to do with the profitability of the organization. When you're wondering why you don't get better benefits or bigger bonuses, it is your responsibility as a salesperson to make sure the profit margin is respectable. Not that you're going to overcharge the customer. It's about the fact that what you're really doing is you're making sure that your business is making a decent enough profit margin for that sale. Now, a long time ago when I was doing marketing as a marketing director, the sales manager had the conversation about the child and the parent concept of selling, which I thought was brilliant. And this is how she explained it to the sales team. In any conversation, there's 2 roles you play. You can either be the parent or you can be the child. Now, if you come into a prospect saying, please, please, please buy from me, you put yourself in that child position and you put that prospect in the position of the parent or the authority. That's not the way that selling needs to be. Same thing, if you come in saying, you better buy from me or you're an idiot, which I've literally heard sales pitches like that from salespeople, and I just cringe. And so if you come in saying, you better buy from me or else you're going to lose out, whatever, you put yourself in the adult position and your customer, your prospect in that child position. That's not good either. Sales is about having an adult to adult conversation. You both win. And that doesn't mean you get super high profit margins and screw your client out. And that doesn't mean you do super low profit margins and the client gets all the benefit. It needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. And what that means to you, I don't know. Depends upon your organization and the industry that you're in. But the reason that I bring all of this up to set up my conversation with Dave Molenda is this. It doesn't matter if you have the word sales in your title, you're selling something to somebody. I was talked about that in the podcast earlier this month. So figure out what that mutual beneficial relationship is when you're trying to sell something to somebody. And if you're a receptionist, you are selling first impressions. And if you are in shipping, you're selling the delivery and the quality of the product getting there intact. You all have a part in the customer experience. And sales is just one tiny piece of that role. Selling is more than just getting somebody to sign on the dotted line. It's about forming relationships with the customer and making sure that they understand you care. Okay, now I'm going to introduce Dave in just a second here. I'm so excited for you to meet him. He's such a great guy. We have the best conversations. We could so geek out on sales conversations, but we didn't do that today. We got right to business. So enjoy. I am so excited to have Dave on my podcast today. He's like the podcast master. I mean, he himself has already done over 350 of your own podcast, right?
That's correct.
And then as a guest, it's over 400.
Yep.
So I love this.
That's too much, right? That sounds like that's too many.
No, because everybody needs to know how to sell properly and how to lead salespeople properly. It's such an important part of business. So anyway, Dave Molenda of Positive Polarity, he and I have known each other for, I don't think I want to admit again how long we've known each other.
No, it's only been a couple weeks. Just say a couple weeks now. So
it's been a couple of weeks times 100. But so what Dave does an in-person training as well here in the Milwaukee area. And I've been privileged enough to speak to that group, and he does a great job with everything. So that's why I'm so excited to have him on the podcast, because he truly, truly knows what he's doing. So Dave, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Lisa. I love hanging out with you and on a podcast that you're running, which is fantastic. So again, I am the founder of Positive Polarity. We're a Midwest-based sales and business coaching firm, and happen to be honored to write a #1 Amazon best-selling book and the fun stuff that goes with that. Speak all over the place. So And then, like you said, we're about 350 episodes into our podcast. So honored to be here and love talking about sales. It's probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite topic. So thank you for honoring me with asking me some tough questions today. I'm nervous.
You're good. Well, we've had tough conversations. We've agreed most of the time, but there's been times we've also disagreed about how to approach sales. So This whole Pitch to Purchase podcast is about every role touches revenue. And it's kind of it's sales, he said, duh, kind of a comment, but it's so much more than that. Because sales is not just about greeting with the customers, the clients, whatever you call them. There's a whole internal part of this that people don't talk about when it comes to sales. And that's what I want to talk about today.
Cool.
So one of the questions that I have for you is, when you hear the word sales, what do you think people typically get wrong?
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the profession and in business, they think of sales as transactional, and we think of it as relational. And there's just such a huge difference between that. I mean, you go to Taco Bell, order a taco as a transaction. But if you're in a longer sales cycle, if you have regular repeat clients, higher dollar amounts, then transactional kind of goes by the wayside, and then relational all of a sudden takes over, and we buy from people we like. And that's just the reality that's been since day one. So hopefully people listening are open to being more relational than transactional.
Yeah, because what I always say is in the Bob Burke know, like, trust concept,
Yep.
I always say the know and the like is marketing. And to go from like to trust,
Sure.
that's sales. That's a sales role. And whether you're a salesperson or a person selling for a company that doesn't have an official title of sales, that's where the transaction goes away and the relationship starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is going
And
from like to trust.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of people, they don't realize they're in sales. And, from the person that answers the phone all the way to the person that may deliver the product, everybody that touches a customer in some way, shape, or form has some relationship and has some involvement in sales. So hopefully people listening today, Lisa, will be able to identify with that and learn what they need to and modify any behaviors in their business.
Yeah. Because when salespeople are out there, or if you're a project manager that's responsible for sales, you hear things out in the field, whether it's a prospect or it's a customer, you hear things that nobody else hears. So when a salespeople has that kind of information, that intellectual property, what other people inside the organization needs to learn from the salespeople what's going out in the field?
Yeah, I tell you, customer feedback somehow stops with the salesperson. It might get to the sales manager or the sales director, who's ever in charge of that department, but it never gets to the people in the quoting department. It never gets to accounting to understand that the pricing is off. It never gets to the people in the shipping department. Anybody, hopefully, when you have a company meeting, if there's not somebody in the sales department that is representing sales, I think you're missing a big chunk. So hopefully your, all hands on deck type meeting always is including sales professionals or the managers or leaders of that department, because the voice of the customer is huge. And if that's not getting, pushed and passed along to other departments, we're missing a huge opportunity right there.
Oh, 100%. I literally had that as my WTF moment in the podcast that launched a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was about arguing. When somebody heard that I was in marketing, he started going off on his marketing department, like bitching about him and like, they don't do this and they don't do this and I don't get great leads. And he just went off and on. And so I said, all right, when's the last time you said it in a marketing meeting?
Yep.
And he literally said to me, that's not my job.
Exactly.
To go, then you are seriously misinformed.
Yep. Yeah. Worst 3 words that you can say in an organization. It's not my job. It's not 4 words. Sorry. It's not my job. So, that's just, wrong spot, wrong spot. So.
Oh, it is such a trigger thing. I have actually, there's 5 things that would completely trigger me. And that's probably my number one. But anyway.
What happens when you trigger, Lisa? I've never seen this before. Do you like this? Is this like physics? Something happen? I want to know. I want to see what this looks like.
Mostly it's breathing.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of deep breathing and a lot of like.
Okay.
I'm not going to throw my wine in your face.
I was going to say, don't throw anything at me. So cool.
No, next time I see you in person, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay. So with that said, you talked about how the salespeople don't talk to the people in shipping and in the delivery, maybe even manufacturing. So like all these other people need to be in on that proposal because they're the ones doing the job.
Correct.
So have you ever seen, do you have an example of a sale that got lost once the proposal was delivered because of what mistakes might have happened?
Well, I'll tell you a big mistake right here. The biggest mistake, realistically, Lisa, is when sales professionals forget to follow up after that quote's been delivered. And this is where, again, the research shows that like most people, like 40% of people never follow up on a proposal. So you send out a proposal and then you just hope or think that someone's going to call you back and they don't. 40% of your competition, that's the good news, is 40% of your competition is not following up. But yet 80% of sales are made between the 5th and the 12th call. So you got to really be tenacious when it comes to sales. And that's what I think. Sometimes you need the rest of the group to encourage you. You need them as cheerleaders. The last thing we need is operations and sales fighting each other. It's hard enough to sell something the way it is. And so the big mistakes are when people they send proposals out, they drop them off, however you get it to the client or the prospect, and then it just sits there. If there's no follow-up, that's like the biggest mistake that is ever in sales ever, because that follow-up is where all the money is. And we teach a ton of people, and we watch that transition from people that didn't follow up to all of a sudden they follow up and they realize, oh my gosh, this is real. This really works if you commit to following up after you do some sales work. So hopefully someone listening today is in that 40% camp, and today's the day they're going to jump out and, learn that there's super huge opportunities in follow-up.
So give me 3 mistakes people make when they do follow up.
So if they do follow up, a lot of times they're following up and saying, hey, this is Dave from Positive Polarity. Lisa, I'm just following up on that proposal that I sent you. Okay, that's all about me. That has nothing to do with you as a prospect. So what I would suggest is, hey, Lisa, I just saw one of your clients and they had great things to say about you. And I just wanted to say thank you for the referral. I found a white paper. Find a reason to add value to your prospect. They're going to have a way higher likelihood of responding. So that's the first thing, is find value. Second is, when you're in that proposal stage, ask the prospect, how do you want me to follow up with you? Sometimes people, I had a prospect that would never take a phone call from me. And then I saw him. I'm like, dude, what's up with this? And he's like, I don't call people back. He said, just text me. I'll text you right back. Well, there was a massive, underwhelming mistake that changed my world, because I all of a sudden realized, ask the prospect, how do you want me to follow up? And conversely, the third thing is ask them when. Because, if you're leaving for vacation tomorrow for 2 weeks, and then I've been following up with you for the last 2 weeks, I'm thinking you're not interested and you're not even in town. So those 3 things, if you can change those, make it about the prospect, ask them when, and ask them how. Those 3 things are crucial in how to follow up. And if you do those things, you will watch your sales go through the roof.
Yeah, I just did a follow-up call this last week because the prospect that I have, they're in a really, really busy season.
Sure.
And even though I talked to this person months ago, they were like, don't even consider having a conversation with me until the middle of June.
Yep.
And so, so it's not a matter of, if they don't call me back in the next couple of days, I'll still call them, and they prefer phone calls. I'll still call them and say, it's me again. I know, this is your reminder that we need to have that second conversation, because they're like, please be persistent. So it's really good to have those conversations during that first or second sales conversation. Right. So I love that. And
here's one secret sauce. People are always looking for secret sauce. When you get somebody to commit to a date, let's say I'm going to call you back 2 weeks from today at 9 a.m., the secret sauce there is send that person a calendar invite. And if they accept it, it's now on their calendar. If they don't accept it, then you start to question how serious they are. But I love being on other people's calendars. My follow-up call for 2 weeks from tomorrow at 9 a.m. is on their calendar, because I sent them a calendar invite. And that, if you get to that spot, the sales success is way higher than if you're not on somebody's calendar. So again, just a small little piece, but it's a massive change if you can pull it off successfully.
Well, and what I love about that from a marketing perspective is that brand awareness that they have, because they see your name on their calendar. Yep. They may not see your competition's name, but they see your name on the calendar. So you're constantly top of mind when that name is on that calendar. So both from a sales and marketing perspective, that's genius. That's great. I love that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Good. Okay, now I'm nervous. Here comes the hard question. So
here
go
comes
ahead.
the hard question. So because every role touches revenue, and obviously sales is the one that brings in leads, whether, again, you don't have to be a salesperson to sell. Again, what Dave was saying earlier is in a small company, usually the president is the person in charge of bringing in leads.
Right.
So what are some warning signs, maybe some red flags that you've seen that you can tell in an organization that sales is not communicating with the other departments, or there's some kind of a disconnect between who's out there selling and who's out there providing the services inside an organization? So what are some red flags inside the organization that you have seen?
Sure. I think the biggest one is we see it a lot where sales are up, but margins or profits are down.
Ooh,
That's one that, people, the sales team's doing the you rah rah. They're hanging out. They're loving life. They're at the golf course because they think that sales are up. So, hey, I'm going to go celebrate. The problem is they don't know that the margins are down because they're either pricing it wrong. There's credit pressure. There's delivery pressure, whatever. There's some back room, something that's causing the margin to go down and erode. And it's super easy for margin erosion in today's world. So when sales and ops aren't talking, that's one of the biggest warning signs that I see is the sales are up and the profits down. And when they don't interact, that's like another red flag when they're not, connecting very well. That's just a red flag because, again, no good comes of a sales professional having a great opportunity. Customer experience is through the roof. And then, they get invoiced the wrong amount or the date's wrong. The person it's sent to the wrong place. Shipments are delayed. I mean, there's just so many things that can derail that sale. And so it's kind of I think of it this way. I look at the sales professional, get in the habit of, if you're a sales professional listening, just get in the habit of getting your hands dirty. Make the calls internally to your people. Hey, how's this order doing? Check on it for the client. Don't let them have to do all that heavy lifting. Do it yourself. And I think the biggest red flag is when that customer stuff we talked about, the customer feedback we talked about before, Lisa, when that doesn't make it back to anybody, that's such a huge red flag. Again, yeah. I think of Taco Bell, again, no offense to Taco Bell, but if you fill out that survey on the back and say, I've had the worst experience ever, I choked on a piece of meat and almost died, do you really think they're going to call you? No, you really, because it's such a massive organization, they don't look at your one feedback as anything more than just numbers to get to an end goal. Well, hopefully you're small enough as a company that any feedback from a customer, it needs to go wherever it needs to go within your organization to make sure that is, the end of the day, that customer is getting exactly what they wanted. And that's why I wrote my book, Growing on Purpose, was because we talk a lot about how to improve that customer's experience. And it's company-wide. It's not just at the sales, And so I'm hoping that you don't have any of those warning signs if you're listening. But if you do, hey, great news. It's not too late to get that fixed.
Yes, it's an opportunity. I wouldn't see it as a challenge or a problem. I would see it as an opportunity, because when something goes wrong in those situations, I just wrote about this in a blog not too long ago. It's like the first thing people do is they blame the other department.
Sure.
I mean, here's the thing, take ownership, take accountability of what you're doing for the organization. You make a mistake. Yeah, that was on me. My bad. I'm going to go fix it.
It's way easier to blame the government, the weather, the competitor, the customer. It's so easy to blame everybody and just do the hands-off approach. So I love that. Yeah, you know what? Just fall on the sword, take the responsibility, and you made the commission most likely. So earn it. You know what? Yeah. Earn it and just be an advocate for the customer. They will love you and you will love seeing your paychecks go up and up and up.
Well, and the bonuses at the end of the year too. Bigger profit margins means bigger bonuses. So, yeah. So outside of sales, what role in an organization do you think has the biggest impact on revenue?
You're going to laugh at this one. I'm going way out on a limb. I'm going to use HR because, in our book and in our research, we learned that disengaged teams really create a poor experience for the customer. And a lot of employee engagement right now, toxic environment, culture, those words really start and resonate from the HR group. So if HR is doing a great job, then you have a great team. And then when a great team provides a great experience, profits are up, sales are up, everybody is happy. So I love making sure that HR is really dialed in to
Yeah.
having an engaged team so that we can, at the end of the day, have a great customer experience.
I love that because HR, I would agree with that 100% because it's all about people and not the people who buy from you, but it's about the people inside your organization being, like you said, engaged. And last month I interviewed Barb Walla, who's an HR consultant on that. And she had some great
Sure.
advice of what that relates to. So I 100% agree with you on the HR aspect, especially coming from my background in recruiting and leadership development and, doing marketing and sales for those kinds of organizations. I think the people part of business is highly overlooked.
Yep,
Highly
absolutely.
overlooked.
I love it.
So,
And HR is really two pieces, right? It's the human side of the H and the R is the resources. I think of HR as the human side and the resource pieces like insurance, 401k, paperwork, all that. Focus on the human side. So hopefully, if you're listening, your HR people are really tuned in and dialed in, not just to the employee handbook, but to the employee itself.
yeah, the people. It's all about the people. 100%.
Absolutely.
All right. That's all the questions I have for you today, Dave. You survived. See, they weren't
Right.
so hard. You got it.
Thank you. Holy cow, I was sweating there for a minute. You had that look in your eye like, uh-oh, you're going to take a turn on me. So
Yeah, that's just my look.
I know.
So my husband says I can have an entire conversation with you without you having to say a word based on my reactions. So
I love Tom Cruise on the Maverick Top Gun. He says, that's the only look I got. So,
yeah,
it's the only look I got. So, yeah, that's it.
that's just my face. Anyway, well, thank you very much for being on the podcast. I truly appreciate you, and I truly appreciate our friendship and the great conversations we have about sales out in business.
Absolutely,
and how
love
it's
it.
ever changing.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Pitch to Purchase podcast talking about sales. If you have any questions, I'd love to leave them in the comments, or better yet, reach out to me personally at lisa@rebelgirlmarketing.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So for this episode on sales, when it comes to every role touches revenue, it's time to raise the bar and maybe just a little hell. Cheers.